And from qualification, there's been a little bit of a trend that has emerged. Canadian kids just taking over downhill. It's happened now too many times to deny it, that it could be happening. You have Jackson Goldstone, Gracey Hemstreet winning the last 2 rounds in pretty spectacular fashion too.
Yeah, there's a bunch of good Canadian riders, even in the junior categories too. I like, you know, you keep seeing the little flag in the corner popping up more and more higher on the list.
Exactly. And I think the first round was a little bit more business as usual, but these next 2 were like, okay, this is something that we can't ignore now. Jackson, despite the odds, despite his lightweight, winning Leogang. For those who aren't super educated about it, Leogang's a very fast, somewhat flat track. And Jackson is a light kid. He's
tiny.
He's light, and weight helps you in gravity racing. Someone who's 180 to 200 pounds is going to go a lot faster through the motorway section than someone like Jackson.
Yeah.
And he has to fight that. It's against his odds, but somehow he's able to do it.
Well, he's doing it because he's a world-class athlete, and world-class athletes take every little thing that they have, whether it looks like a disadvantage to you or me, and they make it their advantage. And that's what makes him who he is.
Exactly. And that was with losing over a second in the motorway. He was able to bring that up at the top and the bottom.
It just depends. It just depends on perspective, right? What angle you're coming from. Yes, being heavier helps you in a gravity race, but until what point? On what track? Because he even commented his abilities in the steep sections, that's where he's able to make up a lot of time on people, because he can actually go faster in between the braking zones because he can slow down faster. He's so much smaller. It's like a cheat code, and he's figured it out, and he's using what he has to his advantage. And when it comes to the motorway section, yeah, he lost time, but I would hardly call that type of riding a disadvantage. The dude grew up in Whistler.
Yeah.
He's been tiny. He started riding the bike park when he was probably 3 or 4. His entire life, he's been struggling and fighting for speed to clear the jump. Like
every jump,
it's ingrained.
Probably. Yeah.
It's not even a technique. It's just riding bikes. That's how he rides.
Right. So he's always been recovering speed, gaining speed, boosting extra. They call him Boost Bro for a reason.
Yeah, having to get towed in on his like little kick bike to be able to clear the double. He's always been fighting for speed since day one.
Yeah. And, we saw something interesting is he was actually adding weights to his bike. And I think that compensated a little bit, but you can only add so much to your bike before it becomes not helpful. So what point do you think that is?
That 40-pound range seems to be like a pretty... like a good ceiling, I think. It's different for different people depending on the way they ride. When it comes to e-bikes and stuff, that's where I really start to notice the handling change. And, a 40-pound enduro race bike or a 40-pound downhill race bike, that's a little on the heavy side for sure, but it's not out of the question.
They weighed enduro race bikes. Julie was actually a part of it too, and she had the lightest bike in the test.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And
what was it?
It was 36 pounds.
That was the lightest one? 36?
36. But there was a toolkit. There's the stash box.
Yeah, it's all the stuff.
Now. So toolkit is on, power meter. I can't remember what else.
Tube?
But, I think there's a small tube in the toolkit. So I think it was like a pound, the toolkit.
Okay, but still 35 pounds. Yeah, that's like your average, like not top of the line, but like maybe pro or expert level complete bike out the door. That's about what that weighs.
But these race bikes, they have the downhill tires, sometimes the inserts, everything's overbuilt a little bit.
Thicker gauge spokes, heavier nipple. Yeah, you can go crazy with it.
Yeah, and some of the top bikes in terms of weight were at that 40-pound mark. And that in enduro, I think, could be a little bit detrimental, but downhill is perfect.
It wasn't until the geometry started to come correct on e-bikes that I started to really feel the benefits of the heavier bikes. And then, those benefits, they were minimal in the beginning. And then the suspension companies started making stiffer suspension. The dampers were working better. Everything kind of like caught up to that weight. And then you really started to feel the benefits of the weight, the traction, the stability. And I mean, mass dampers, weights on your bottom bracket, it's all just trying to fine tune the bike. But ultimately, they're just trying to feel good in their brains. Like, if it feels like an advantage, if somebody tells them that there's a possibility that it's an advantage and they feel something and they make it an advantage in their head, it actually doesn't matter if it is or not. It's an advantage.
Yeah. The mental part of racing is almost the biggest.
I mean, that was Greg Menard, the GOAT. Like, that was his thing. Like, I can't remember who it was that told me, but it was very rare that he would come down from a run, whether it was practice, qualifying, whatever it was, that he wouldn't make some change to his bike. Maybe it was a lever adjustment, a reach adjustment, the throw on his derailleur, like anything. He would make a difference so he could convince himself in his mind he was bettering himself than his competition.
Yeah, he was doing something moving forward in some way.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting.
Very cool.